back with this 99 GTX Limited. It's got the 951 in it. I'd given this to my dad last fall, well, maybe last winter, and he used it all summer, and then towards the end of the season he started having issues with it. And what I've found is those issues may be slightly self-induced. I knew he was having problems with the oil tank leaking, and if you look down at these tubes, these are the oil feeds to the engine. You can see that those tubes don't have oil in them. They have a little bit of oil and then some sort of clear liquid. I'm not sure what the clear liquid is yet. I don't know if it's water or maybe he accidentally put gas in the oil tank. Not really sure yet. But I do know that the pistons are pretty scarred up. I did take a look at those. I'll show you those in just a second. So I've already pulled the carbs off, and I pulled one of the reed valves out, and I'll get you down there. You can see the bottom of the piston skirt there. It's pretty scarred up. It's usually an indication that it did not have oil in it, and the piston gets hot and starts growing in size, and then starts rubbing on the cylinder walls pretty good. I'm hoping that the cylinders are still good, but I need to tear the head off. I need to pull all these bolts out, tear the head off, and see if I can check the cylinders out, see if they're too scarred up. Alright, got it tore down a little more. Took the giant exhaust pipe off here. I don't know if it'll... yeah, it kind of shows up on camera. You see that line in the oil tank? I think that's all water on the bottom. I don't know what happened. I don't know what he did to this. But that means water got pumped through the oil lines, and then the engine did not get adequate oil, and it destroyed the top end. The bottom end seems fine. Like if I rock the drive shaft, I don't hear anything really banging too bad. So but I'll take the head off, probably take the jugs off, and then check the bottom end, make sure it's still tight. I do have a big stash of 951 parts, so I'm hoping I can just kind of repair this without spending any money, but we will see. Well, here's the head. Looks like the rear still has some lube going on, but the front's totally dry. And you can see the same thing in the cylinder. Like, there's a front cylinder, the mag cylinder as they call it. Then PTO cylinder isn't terrible, but I can feel this little indentation here. It's got some good wear right through there. So best choice is to bore it out, or I might have another set of cylinders that I can stick on this thing. Forget what I recorded last. I've been sick for a couple days, but I'm back working on this project. I think last time I recorded, I still had the cylinders on there with the pistons in, but I've taken that off. The cylinders are trash, obviously. The lower end all feels good, nice and tight, so I don't think I have any damage down there. I probably will end up pulling the lower end just to clean it out. I don't know if it shows up on video, but the backside cylinder, there's a lot of powdered aluminum in there just from the piston disintegrating, rubbing against the cylinder wall. So I'll have to pull that apart and clean it all out. But it's looking pretty good. And I did find in my stash of parts a set of cylinders that are in okay shape. They're not perfect or anything, but I think they're probably good enough.
like I said, they're not perfect. I wish they were better, but these are the best I have, and this thing's not worth enough money to actually, have it bored out and all that jazz. And then I cleaned up the head. It looks pretty good. And I did find a couple decent looking pistons that I can use. And so that's where we go from here. Oh, I also have gaskets on hand, so good there. I don't think I have to spend any money on rebuilding this thing. Alright, we got the bottom end pulled out of the SeaDoo now, and I got it perfectly balanced on this plastic bucket, so I can use some brake clean, spray those guys out. And I don't think I'll pull the bottom end apart. There's nothing wrong with the bottom end, so just gonna leave it together. Alright, so I got the bottom end pulled out and put back in. I cleaned out the whatever you call it, the bottom end of the cylinders, got all the aluminum out of there, put the carbs back on, put the airbox back on, hooked the oil lines up, pre-filled them. I did have to put a new oil pump on the front, which was fine. I had it sitting around. The old oil pump was locked up. I don't know if that caused any issues, or maybe that was from the water sitting in it. Not really sure there. When I pulled the bottom end out, I had to pull the jet pump off and pull the drive shaft out. So the jet pump comes off pretty easy. It's just let's see if I can get a shot. See those big nuts up there? There's 4 nuts, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top. Comes right out, slides right out, and then to get it back in, you gotta do the opposite. There is a trick with this collar where you have to push back and pop that little C-clip out of there, and then it'll come loose. Next, I'm going to throw the pistons on, and then put the cylinders on, put the head on. I'm going to try to set up a little time lapse. I've never done a time lapse before, but we're going to try it. I don't know how easy that was to see, but let me see if I can explain a little better what I was doing. So, the pistons, like the old school style ones, they have individual needles for the bearings up here. The newer ones and any of the kits that you buy now have cage needle bearings, so that means those needles are just in like a plastic cage, and it's a lot easier to work with. But these aren't too bad. I found that you have to lay those in individually, lay them into the bearing surface there individually, but I found that a 15 millimeter Craftsman 3/8 drive socket, one of my chrome ones, fits just about perfect. It's like the same diameter as the wrist pin there, but it's short enough where you can fit all the needles and fit those metal rings. See how there's a ring on each side? It's like a little washer. You can fit those on the socket and kind of hold everything in place. And then once you have everything in place, you can slide the piston down over top of that whole assembly and then slide the wrist pin in. And as you're sliding the wrist pin in, you just have to make sure like the socket doesn't come flying out. You have to kind of gradually slide the socket out with the wrist pin coming in, if that makes any sense. And then on the side, there's kind of these C-clips. There's these C-clips. Let's see. See that thin piece of metal, that metal ring there? You just kind of have to pop that into the groove there, and that holds the wrist pin from sliding out from the piston. So there's one on each side that you have to slide in. So the next step is to slide the cylinders down onto the pistons. This can be a little tricky because you have to compress the piston rings as you're sliding the cylinders on. And there's a little, let's see if we can find it. There's a little pin on each set of rings. See where the gap is there? I'm kind of wiggling it now. There's a little pin. Let me see. Can I get down there? There's a little pin inside the groove there. Like, watch how the ring falls down. Watch how the ring falls down into the, see that? There's a little pin right there. So that's where you need that ring located. And then for the top ring, it's the same thing. It's just, man, it's kind of a crappy picture. Just kind of, what is it, like 30 degrees offset from it. So you just have to line those up, and you have to compress the rings as you're sliding them into the cylinders. And you have to do that for both pistons almost at the same time. You can kind of stagger them like I have right now, but it's still kind of painful. So I'll put it in time lapse. You'll get to watch me struggle doing it. Well, as you saw, that was a bit of a struggle, but we've got it on now. Since we're doing this in the hall, we have to add the studs into these holes before we start tightening anything down, because you can't directly fit the studs in there. You have to lean the cylinder out to put the studs in. One thing to note is you want to put some Loctite 518, yeah, I think it's 518, on the bottom threads of the studs, and then torque those studs to 13 foot-pounds, I believe it is. Look it up. Don't trust me. But I believe it's 13 foot-pounds. It's very important to torque them into the block, because I forgot to one time. I had the whole cylinder assembly lift up off the block and just leak water into everything. It's basically a rebuild after that. I mean, I was able to get all the water out of the engine so it didn't rust it up or anything, but I had to take it home, take it apart, basically redo the whole thing. So very important, Loctite 518, and torque those studs to 13 foot-pounds. Alright, I have 518 on the bottom threads of those bolts, and I got them ran all the way down into the block till they bottom out, and then the double nutting on the top is a double nut or jam nut, whatever you want to call it, and it basically just kind of locks the nuts of the threads, or the threads of the nuts, onto the threads of the studs so that the nuts won't spin on the studs. So if you tighten those nuts against each other, then it puts enough friction on the threads so that they won't spin. And that's just so that you have kind of a direct connection to the stud so that you can torque it down. So I've torqued it to 13 foot-pounds. Should be good. And then I'll do the other side the same way. Alright, got the studs all torqued down. Next step is head gasket and then head. Don't forget the little anti-rattle O-rings on these studs. I don't know if they're that important, but I mean, the parts diagram calls for them, so don't forget them. So I was a little off on what I said previously. It shows to torque these studs to 15 newton meters or 133 inch-pounds. I don't know why that F is there. 133 is about 11 foot-pounds, probably, right? Somewhere in there. It also says to use moly coat, which is just grease on the threads. I like the idea of using 518 on those, just to keep them locked in there. But it's up to you if you want to follow this or not. And then the head nuts and head bolts, they get torqued to 25 foot-pounds. And same thing, moly coat or grease on the threads. Loctite, just the blue Loctite, the medium strength Loctite on kind of the surface of the bolt head. Same with the nuts, moly coat on the threads and Loctite on the surface. So that's what I did, and I'll show you. Got all the head bolts in, all the nuts on the studs, everything's torqued to 25. You kind of want to do an inner to outer pattern, so start in the middle when these bolts go inner to outer. And then I just did these in a crisscross pattern, but then the inner nuts, do those first in kind of a crisscross pattern through these, and then the outer ones in crisscross pattern. And it should be good to go. Alright, I'm pretty much done now. I went ahead and put the oil tank in off camera. Oil tank's right up there. Can't see it because of the giant exhaust pipe. And put the exhaust on. That's all kind of boring stuff and hard to film anyway, so. And then just a bunch of hooking up hoses and clean up wiring. But she's all hooked up, ready to go. Next step is just to see if it runs, and if it doesn't, we'll probably go through some compression testing. Hopefully the compression numbers are pretty good, but we will see. Alright, I got it all buttoned up,
Should be ready to try to start up now. So, put the lanyard in. Got the beep. Oh yeah. All right, she fired up.